Yeah.
First, adding on stuff.
In the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Anyway, I gotta wander back.
You ready to go back?
Go do the case. See,
I can go home early.
I'm gonna wander back. I'll be out.
We're going to go home early.
Miss Chuka?
Yes, and we're going. Take care.
Hey, you are.
And I just need to. Oh, they're doing it in. Oh, so now you could go. Okay, they're usually good. Yeah. That's what I'll do.
Oh, you know, they've been working on a better solution ever since this got started. It was just an exercise that they had to go through and look at alternatives. Well, hopefully this will work fine. Yeah, our insurance is pretty good.
I was talking to her. As soon as he shakes the
It's true. It's a lesson in legal operations, trying to manage your way through public administration. There's a lot of rules.
Daryl Buttons. Daryl Buttons.
Dual buttons?
Daryl Buttons.
Daryl
I
buttons.
know Daryl buttons.
Yeah, that too.
Got mine. Did you get your amendments?
No.
Susie, you got yours, right?
Yes. What are they?
Juan, it's quicker if you just want to.
I went the wrong. I went.
Unless
the
you
wrong
just
way.
really, really want some exercise.
I can see him running down the hall.
So what's the amendment? I can't find it.
They've added, it's on the executive session, they've added the hatch set one, the executive session. We're not gonna do it this time.
Oh, we're not gonna do it.
No, so
Okay.
the mayor and I decided,
Okay.
since it was added at the last minute,
Oh, I can. Okay.
it's getting older. Talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of the exec session having 3 items, it now has 4.
I'm gonna send them everything and let them use whatever information we have.
I do like, remember when we talked about the sequence, we'll check with Phyllis and make sure that we can.
I guess I didn't think about that.
Address
Go A,
these.
and B,
Yeah, we'll kick that one to the curb and then come back for item Delta.
Delta.
Okay.
Yeah, then that way everybody can leave after A and B.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look at your amendments, look at item C, item 8C.
Was that going to get a chuckle out of me?
Well, that was the cause of why I said that. Okay, you guys ready?
Let's roll her.
All right. Hold on for a second. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call?
Most certainly. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Chuka.
Here.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Miller appears to be absent.
He's not going to be here tonight.
Okay. Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Croft.
Here.
And Mayor Marley.
Here. Our first item is introductions, presentations, and proclamations, and we have none. Next item is call to the public. Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. Total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. I would ask our audience, anyone who wishes to speak to call to the public, to please pay attention to our public participation side of our rules, which are right outside the door. Does anyone wish to speak to call to the public? Yes, ma'am.
Please come
Yes,
up.
ma'am. Please up at the microphone. You bet.
I'm not loud enough.
No, the folks at home need to be able to hear you.
Oh, okay, I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to thank the council members for their courage to step away from things that had been done for a long period of time and become their tradition. Their courage to see that there was a need in the public to feel more welcome and included, and their courage to take the steps toward that end of making them feel more welcome and included. And so I applaud you, and if anybody wants to join me in applauding them, I applaud you for your courage.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else for call to the public? Okay, call to the public is now closed. Response to the public. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials addressed matters raised during call to the public at a previous meeting. And we had comments regarding the following information not being on the town's website: crime statistics, community disaster preparedness plan, and the town's preparations related to recreational marijuana. I wanted to thank Ms. Morales for her questions. Unfortunately, our police department does not have a full-time person to update the website, but they try to keep it as updated as possible. You can find most statistics, crime statistics, on the town's budget book, which is on our website under the finance department. And information regarding the Block Watch program is now on the police department's website. The second question she asked was about a plan for the town in regard to disaster preparedness, situations such as fire, flood, and earthquake, asking about emergency evacuation routes and those kind of things. Because large-scale disasters don't respect man-made boundaries like town limits, emergency management is done on a larger scale in this area. Yavapai County is in charge of that. They have a full-time division devoted just to that. There's a copy of the countywide plan on the county's website. Emergency services such as fire and law enforcement have mutual aid agreements in place to they cross-train for these situations. As far as our town local is concerned, the town's police department and public works department work hand in hand in emergency situations such as closing roads, redirecting traffic, and those kinds of items. Please contact our Public Works Department or our Police Department if you have further or require further information. The third one was the recreational marijuana issue. That's, I believe, going to be on the ballot here this fall. And Ms. Morales had asked to begin to think on how this would affect the town. How can we keep the citizens safe? We can't legislate what hasn't occurred yet. We don't even have the ballot language to begin preparing for it. For myself, on a personal scale, I've spoken to my children and to my grandchildren because they're not going to ship drugs in if we don't have a demand for them. As far as the town is concerned, if we have zoning issues, we'll have to address them at that time, but it may be such that the ballot language allows folks to grow it in their backyards. We don't even know yet. As far as driving impaired, our police department has the right to cite individuals for driving impaired, whether it be for whatever reason. There's also public decency, disorderly conduct, and nuisance laws if someone's acting inappropriately in public. But we have to, as I said, we have to see what the legislation is, and then we'll have to deal with it. That closes. Ever get a beeping sound in your ears? That's our emergency system. No, it isn't really. That closes our response to the public. Now is current event summaries and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor, any council member, or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events or ask a staff member to provide the same. Presentation on information requested by the mayor and council will be made and questions answered. No action will be taken. Our first item is status reports by mayor and council regarding current events. I believe Mr. Best was at the Mud Run. Would you tell us about that?
The Mud Run was great. I would like to commend all those involved in putting it together, staff and volunteers and those who are sponsoring some of the events. Everybody that I talked to had a great time. And if we can, I can provide some pictures for those that could not swing all the way across our little pond. They had a great time, even though the weather wasn't quite as accommodating as we would like. Everybody that I've talked to wants to do it again next year, and I hope we can make it bigger and better next year. But I'd like to thank all those, again, who worked so hard to put it together. Thank you for them.
And the Chino grinder also was quite an event. So I talked to some of the folks who tried to do a mud bog on their bicycles. That was, I bet, quite an adventure. Any other status reports or committee reports? Okay. Yes, sir.
Sorry to take your time again, but we did have a safety meeting this afternoon. We talked about improving the dog ordinance. We had quite a few citizens here. I'd like to thank them for coming out. We only got through about half of it, and on the 31st of May at 4 o'clock, we'll be here again to get through the rest of it, and everybody's invited.
All right. Mr. Smith, did you have anything?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda items. All those items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Does anyone wish to remove any consent agenda items?
I'd like to remove 6A.
6 alpha. Any others? No? Okay. May we have the rest of the consent agenda items?
Certainly. 6B, consideration and possible action to accept the April 12, 2016 regular meeting minutes. C, consideration and possible action to accept the April 12, 2016 special meeting minutes. And D, consideration and possible action to accept the April 14, 2016 study session minutes.
Chair would entertain a
Mr.
motion.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items B, C, and D.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our first item of business under Section 7 action items would be item 6A.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Item 6A, consideration and possible action to approve revised form of agreement for towing services. Is Chief Wynn available? Oh,
No, Mr. Mayor, I'll be answering any questions that you
Okay.
guys may have in reference to this.
sounds good. Yes, sir, Mr. Mendoza.
Can you briefly tell me what ARS 28-3511?
Yes. Probably about 4 years ago, the state made a statute that says if you're driving a vehicle and your privilege to drive is suspended, canceled, or revoked, you're arrested for a charge of extreme DUI or aggravated DUI, or you're driving without a license and have never had a valid license in any jurisdiction, your vehicle is to be towed and impounded for 30 consecutive days under the state statute. They enacted that probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. So is this the same contract as last year, or is there changes in it?
There are
I'm
a
sorry,
few
I should have done
changes.
some
Yeah,
homework on
there are a
this.
few changes. My copy, they're red. So there's only a few changes. We have already sent this to all the current tow companies on rotation to get input from them on any amendments or changes they had. We had these recommendations in there as well to them and asked if they had any issues or concerns with that. We got responses from all of them that they had no issues or concerns. Some of them in reference to response times, we were bringing them into line with the other two municipalities, the Prescott Police and Prescott Valley Police, to 25 minutes. And then we've always had a clause in there that says if they take too long to get there, we can cancel them. We just defined what that too long is for their response. And then we added, in reference to ARS 25 or 28-3511, we put our impound yard in there. We actually put the actual address in there because our address changed from 1020 Palomino to 1950 Voss, so we updated that.
Okay.
And then we put an exception in there. Currently, the law says we shall impound for 30 days. Our impound yard is, a certain amount of size. If we have a car that is totaled in a collision, it's not very feasible for the way our yard is laid out to bring a totaled car in there and impound it. So we added an exception that it can be impounded at the tow facility's yard, because right now it's not meeting those mandates that the statute has in there for impoundment, mainly because otherwise we'd have an oil-soaked parking lot of all the wrecked cars in there. So right now we haven't been doing it. We've just put in there that it can be impounded there, because currently the contract says it can only be impounded at our facility. So we added, no, it can be impounded there to meet the statutory requirements if it's involved in a collision and it's totaled and things like that. That way, we don't have it sitting in our yard doing that. And then we put in a thing in there that they're still required to abide by the mandates in that statute per the contract if it's impounded at their yard versus our yard.
Sure. I'm glad to hear that you did include the tow companies in the revision of the contract, so that answered everything I needed.
Okay, thank you. I remember when this came up a couple of years back, so one of the tow truck drivers offered to remove the mayor's vehicle, so that was sort of nice. All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, the chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda item A.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 7A, consideration and possible action for the town of Chino Valley to financially participate in the town's 4th of July activities in the amount of $10,000. If approved, the $10,000 will be added to the Recreation Department's Recreation Programs 2016-2017 budget. I believe you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize for jumping up here. I wasn't listening very well. I'm Cecilia Gritman. I would like to introduce John Coomer. He is the president of the Chino Community Enrichment Organization. He's going to make the request for the 4th of July funding on behalf of the organization, which is a 501c3 organization that partners with the town.
Okay.
I guess I better put this up a little, huh? I won't be overly chatty, I promise. My name's John Coomer. I've lived in Chino Valley since 1997. It's an honor to be here tonight to put forth this request. If you're not familiar with CCEO, it's the Chino Community Enrichment Organization. It was established by this group a few years ago with some assistance with the town. It's a 501c3, and there are 2 or 3 of us in the community who sit on that board currently. I better read the goals, but we're here to create a strong and committed community partnerships, promote the development, implementation, and expansion of recreational, cultural, educational, and wellness opportunities, support the development, improvement, and maintenance of quality facilities to meet current and future community needs. But basically, anything that we can do in conjunction with other organizations, we're not a lead organization on anything in particular, we want to offer a helping hand. For instance, I'm meeting with a group in the next week or so to see how we might be able to enhance and work on the 4th of July celebration. I'm meeting with Arlene next week and we've been having several discussions on how to enhance, expand, and make Territorial Days more of a destination event. And we learned we were going to take a sort of a lead role on. We heard that Arlene was very busy with the chamber doing just that. And our goal isn't to take anything over, it's just to try to help. But we've already brought in some thoughts and some ideas for some added value for it, and some extra activities, possible ways to encourage and make this more of a destination event. What I see personally is you made comments, Mike, about the grinder and the mud event. My 12-year-old son was in the mud event. He was very muddy. We watched the hail come down, but that's the type of event that not only attracts a good basis of locals, and there were a lot of locals in that mud event, and I talked to several people who say, I've been doing mud events for 6-7 years. It's so good to have one in our backyard. They'll go to Phoenix for them, and we have one here. The all-day 5K is a great idea, and my goal is to participate in the grinder next year. Not the 106, though. But what we want to do, and my involvement came forth. You all remember John Willoughby, and John cornered me one day, suckered me into the organization, then left town. So that's how I'm chairman today. So I just wanted you to be aware, and I'm happy to do it, by the way. You know that over the past few years, we've had some benefactors who have helped with the 4th of July celebration, and due to a variety of reasons, it didn't meet the goal of being self-sufficient. In 2013, unfortunately, we had 19, hotshots who perished, and Prescott did a great job honoring them, and that became the center point. The next year, what was it? The Discovery Channel gave them a couple $100,000 to bring in national acts, and so again, that took away from our celebration. Well, this year, Prescott did just the opposite, and I think you may be aware of that. They're moving their 4th of July celebration from Pioneer Park to downtown Prescott. They're downsizing it. I think they have vendors who are running it. They're charging people, and they're expecting 2,500 to 5,000 people instead of the huge masses they've had in the past. So not only is it an extra 8-9 miles from Chino Valley, they're charging, and it gives us an opportunity to showcase our own and hopefully keep our local citizens here for what has been a great celebration over the years. I go to it every year. I'm always happy to help pour beers there, Daryl, so if you need help again, just let me know.
We'll get you, John.
Okay. But so what I'm here to do today is to ask the council and the town's participation in funding the fireworks show to the tune of $10,000 this year. And as Cecilia had mentioned earlier, that would be funneled into the Parks and Recreation budget. And we'd turn that over to, I guess, Chris to make sure that that's used appropriately. And we can hopefully expand and make this a better event than it ever has been. I think that the town has done an excellent job of managing traffic and traffic flow, control of the facility. I think the community center is a great venue for this event, the lower fireworks show, and it's been pretty well attended, but I think this is the year that we could pretty much double that if we're able to do it right. So that's basically my presentation, and We still have the same sponsors coming back. I believe Word of Life is coming back, the Recreation Foundation, the Lions and Rotary Clubs. So, we have all the components to have a very quality event, and I hope that you'll consider funding it this year to the tune of $10,000. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
All right. Any questions on this side? Any questions on this side?
No?
All right. We're still going to have the same regular 4th of July Day events, correct? And then this is just for the fireworks, correct?
Well,
My understanding is that the event will be on the same day. The 4th is a Friday this year. Is it a Friday? Monday. I knew it was right butt up to the weekend. Now, as far as the day, I suspect it's Monday, but that's a little detail I haven't learned.
Yeah, it's a Monday. Okay. Excellent. Okay. The parade is on Saturday, and then we'll have the regular events, folks doing the vendors and the blow-up inflatable bouncy houses and all that stuff, isn't that?
Dunk the mayor, that's good too.
Well, yeah. You'll get to dunk the vice mayor this year.
Dunk the
So.
vice mayor this year.
All right.
You like swimming.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Wings.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any discussion?
Well, I'll just comment. I've been involved in this since we started doing it again out here. And the town of Chino Valley, through the downturn, just was not able to make this happen in Chino, and we went for several years without fireworks. And a local resident came and asked, why aren't we having fireworks? And I said it was because we just didn't have the funds. They asked how much. I told them, and they wrote us a check. They said, we want to see fireworks in our community. They've continued to support this for the last few years. And things have made a turn. We're looking up a little bit. We can't count on these people forever. It's a lot of money for somebody to take out of their pocket, at $10,000 a year. And the groups that have participated have done a great job. Everybody, all the volunteers, in setting up things for the kids to do and try to bring in a little extra money through food and ticket sales and the games and things like that have been done to help support it. But in order to continue, the 4th of July committee needs the help of the community and the town.
For myself, not everything that we decide as a council has to be based on financial returns. There's some things that we have to make choices on that are simple quality of life questions, and so I'm in favor of it. I think 4th of July without fireworks wouldn't be the same. So, all right. Chair would entertain a motion if there's no other discussion. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the town of Chino Valley to financially participate in the town's 4th of July activities in the amount of $10,000.
Second it.
Motion in 2 seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Item B, consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 16-817 to rezone approximately 2.0 acres of real property located at 1650 Granite Creek Lane, Chino Valley, Arizona, from industrial to single-family residential 1 acre minimum, or SR1 zoning district. The property being rezoned consists of a portion of the northeast quarter of Section 11, Township 16N, Range 02W, Gila and Salt River Base and Meridian, Yavapai County Assessor's Parcel Number 306-17-110C. Mr. Gardner, I believe you're up.
Mayor and Council, thank you for your time this evening. I'll be presenting on a rezoning case 16-002 at 1650 West Granite Creek. This is the vicinity map of the area. The subject property is highlighted in red. It's a little difficult to see on this small screen, so I also have an arrow pointing to it. For reference, the auto junkyard that is now out of business is also identified, just to show you kind of where we are in town. This is the current zoning map of the area. As you can see, the subject property is zoned industrial and is directly adjacent to a residential neighborhood. Again, the auto junkyard is depicted here for reference. This hatched area is a floodplain. This is just depicted to sort of show you how close it is to the Granite Creek there, and also it'll come up in our general plan map. So I wanted to give you a little bit of reference point. The request is the rezone of the subject parcel from industrial to single-family residential 1 acre minimum. The existing use is a single-family home. It's been on site since the 1980s, and it's not currently permitted in the industrial zoning. Therefore, the applicant has come forward to bring the property into compliance. The uses allowed under the current zoning are depicted here on screen. This is just a sample of what is allowed. It's not the entire list. Auto salvage yards, as you saw to the north, feedlots, quarries, mines, commercial outdoor kennels, and medical marijuana uses are allowed in the industrial zoning. You won't see homes there. Under the proposed zoning, single-family residences and customary accessory uses, that would be garage, barn, that kind of thing. So this is the site plan. It's the proposed site plan and the existing site plan. There will be no changes made. As you can see here, the house is kind of centered in the parcel, and on the eastern boundary of the parcel, you have the driveway coming in towards the house and the garage, both existing. The current conditions on site are a manufactured home and a garage. It was permitted in 1984, 9 years after the rezone to industrial. So the rezone to industrial was made in 1975, about 40 years ago. There's also a well house on site. Public outreach is a part of each and every one of our zoning cases, and in this case, the applicant mailed the letters, posted the site, and followed the UDO and statute. The applicant and the current tenant, who is also the buyer in this case, held a meeting on February 22nd on site. That should say 2016. I'm sorry about that. And a representative for the adjacent neighbor was in attendance. He expressed opposition based on a perception of diminished rights to develop on the adjacent industrial zoning. So the neighbor was in opposition because they believe that a rezone will change the rights on their property. This is a map showing the opposition. This X shows where the opposition is, and as you'll see on the map, it's directly adjacent to the subject parcel. So in looking at this, I wanted to make sure that the neighbor wasn't actually losing any of their rights. So I went through our zoning ordinance and started doing some research. One thing that will be affected is the requirement for a landscape buffer if that industrial parcel is developed. So if they decide to build an industrial building on site, we would require that they have a 10-foot landscape buffer facing the residence and a fence that would screen the industrial use from the residential use. The UDO also requires a 5-foot landscape strip along the street where it's adjacent to residential zoning. I wanted to also address uses that would be affected by proximity to residential zoning. Medical marijuana has a 500-foot separation requirement from current residences or residentially zoned parcels. If you take a look at the zoning map, which I can go back to, we are much closer than 500 feet already to residential. This is about 160 feet up here. And the other use that's affected is sexually oriented businesses, and those require a 1,000-foot distance from residences. So neither of those uses would be allowed today, and that's the only uses that would be affected by proximity to residential. As far as conformance with the general plan, it's well outside of our community cores and is located right by this red and black hatched area. It's right on the border of what we consider low density or medium density residential and a commercial aggregate future land use. Those are basically directly adjacent to each other, and on this scale of map, it's really hard to tell whether this parcel is within the residential or within the commercial. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have. The applicant is also available, as well as the current tenant, for any questions you may have. Yes.
The 10-foot landscape buffer was the only thing that caught my eye on this. If a person gets his property rezoned to residential and then suddenly his neighbors have to be out X number of dollars for a landscape buffer, is there a way that we could write into this somehow? And I'm glad we have Miss Smiley on our television set there. Is there a way that we can write in that where the person who's getting their property changed will not require that buffer, or they'll do it themselves? Something to where it isn't a weight upon their neighbor. Okay.
The neighbor could apply for a variance. The circumstances would be such that because we've rezoned the adjacent property, they could prove that they now have hardship, and they could get a variance from that landscape requirement.
And this has been the situation there. The home has been there for quite a number of years. The industrial property has been there for quite a number of years. Nothing is changing per se.
That's correct. It's just changing on paper.
Okay.
In, I believe, 1993, our zoning ordinance changed to no longer allow residential uses in industrial districts. Because the sale is pending, we get a call from the underwriter of the loan. They call and say, "Is this in the correct zoning district?" And we say no, and that's usually the impetus for these. So, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Any other questions?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go. I'm not ready, so go ahead.
Okay. Could you go back to the map that shows the visual, the aerial
Sure.
map?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. This one here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe the current tenant could help me on this. I'm having a hard time. So there is a log cabin that wasn't mentioned in the description of the property. Could they maybe tell me where that is? Because it appears, I went by there and it appears that it's on, I'm not sure if it's on the property that's being rezoned or, because it's not mentioned.
My name is Tim Hendrickson. I am the owner of the property. The log cabin has been there for, I believe, 30-plus years. 30-plus years on my property.
Okay, so it's part of, because I know in the description it mentioned a manufactured home and a well house.
No. It's a log cabin and a 24 by 24 detached garage and maybe a 8 by 8 well house.
So there is not a manufactured home?
No. No, I don't believe so. I believe the log cabin was a kit home from a lot of years ago.
Oh, okay.
But it is a...
Okay, so it's actually a residential structure.
Yes, it is a residential
And
two-story
beyond
log
that,
cabin.
I saw a manufactured home.
I believe that's on the adjoining property. That's on the residential
So that's
property.
on another property then that's going to raise up again that it's another non-conforming lot.
No, it's actually surrounded by residential. This is was one piece that was I believe, is behind me. Behind my home there is residential also.
Well,
And that's where the log cabin is, I believe. I mean, that's where the mobile home is.
I believe the mobile home is also on industrial then, isn't it, James?
Are you talking about the property to the north?
Yes.
Yes, that's
I'm
also
talking
on
about
industrial.
001C.
Yes,
That's
it's
where
also
the
on
manufactured homes, so
industrial.
once again, we're going to have
That's
another
correct.
non-conforming lot. Right, yeah. It's very heavily resident. There's a lot of residential structure there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gardner?
What is the motivation at this time for the owner to want to do this rezone?
I believe the motivation is the sale of the property. We received a call from an underwriter asking whether this was in the correct zoning district and if a legal nonconforming use can be continued in the event of destruction and act of God, that kind of thing. And our zoning district currently reads that it cannot. Yes.
And that is the reason why our staff is recommending the rezone?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Other questions here?
There were two oppositions to this?
There was one property owner in opposition who owned two parcels. They own the parcel with the X on it and this adjacent parcel to the south of the subject property.
Okay, and it didn't spell out what was their,
Their opposition was essentially, was that they were concerned that having a residential zoning district next to their industrial zoning district would lower their property values.
Yes, sir.
Now, you're doing it just 1 acre, so it's a 2-acre plot. So are they going to split it, or are they just going to go ahead and have 1 acre residence on?
I believe
2
the
acres?
current plan is to leave it as is. We changed it to a 1 acre minimum in case in the future they wanted to split that property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we approve ordinance number 16-817, rezoning approximately 2.8 acres of real property located at 1650 Granite Creek Lane.
Second it?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. Executive session, item 8. Council may vote to recess the regular meeting and hold an executive session which will not be open to the public for the following purposes. Ms. Smiley, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I would like to address items A, B, and C in an executive session and then come back out. In other words, lay on the table executive session 8D until later on in the meeting. That way we could address those first 3 items, and the folks who are here would then be able to go home if any of them are waiting on those first 3 items. Are we able to do that, or do we have to do one and come back out, do another and come back out, or do all of them together?
Okay, so you want to do 3 of the items in executive session and then come back out and do an additional, I'm sorry. You want to do A, B, C in executive session. Ah, I see. Yes. Yes, I believe
Okay.
that would be okay.
Okay, and that way we could do item 8D as the end of our evening, and that, like I said, let these good folks go home that came here for the other items, okay?
Right, and just make that motion clear.
Okay,
Make it clear in your motion.
all right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to recess into executive session to deal with items 8A, B, and C.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now recess the regular meeting and hold our executive session, which is not open to the public, for the following purposes. An executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.0A3 and A4 for discussion or consultation for legal advice with the town attorney and for discussion or consultation with the town attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position in pending litigation or in settlement discussions conducted in order to avoid or resolve litigation in the matter of Cortez versus Town. Item B, an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A7 for discussion or consultation with designated representatives of the town in order to consider its position and instruct its representatives regarding negotiations for the purchase, sale, or lease of real property located at Old Home Manor. And item C, an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 for discussion or consultation with the town attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position in pending litigation or settlement discussions conducted in order to resolve litigation in the matter of Hatch versus Town of Chino Valley. So we will now recess the regular meeting and we'll be back in a bit.
We've been talking about. No, he's not. No, he's not complaining about it. I think that they see it differently. I think that, there's a lot of areas where that's what he sees. I don't think he sees them as bad. I think he sees them as they go.
We need Zach.
Totally uncontrollable.
It's too quiet.
I'm gonna block them with your seat.
To be continued.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sounds good. We wouldn't think of it.
When we do the robbery, we don't need a HR person.
I don't think so, no.
Absolutely, me too. Can we take 5 after we?
Yeah,
Go back.
let's do that, and then we'll go back in.
Yeah.
Are we good, Jamie? Okay. We're now moving on. We're back in session. We're now moving on to item 9, action items resumed. Item 9 alpha, consideration and possible action to approve settlement agreement in the matter of Cortez versus Town of Chino Valley. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the settlement agreement in the matter of Cortez versus Town of Chino Valley.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B is listed, consideration and possible action to enter into an option agreement with Exelon for approximately 40 acres of real property located in Old Home Manor for 3 one-year terms as set forth in the agreement. But that, I guess we would table that indefinitely. Yes, table indefinitely. Chair would entertain a motion to table.
Motion to table item B, enter into the option agreement with Exelon for approximately 40 acres of real property located in Old Home Manor for a 3-year one-year term will be tabled indefinitely.
Second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C, consideration and possible action to approve a settlement agreement in the matter of Yavapai County Superior Court case number P1300-CV2016-00013, Hatch versus Town of Chino Valley et al. The chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, recommendation to approve the settlement agreement in the matter of Yavapai County Superior Court case number P13-CV 2016-0013, Hatch versus Town of Chino Valley et al.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, my allergies.
Yay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Mr. Mayor, make
Yes,
a
sir.
motion to approve resolution number 16-1081, rescinding resolution number 15-1055.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, returning to our executive session items, item 8, Delta, an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1 for discussion or consideration of employment, assignment, salaries, or disciplining of Town Manager Robert Smith. And I believe you wanted to do a short recess.
Make a motion that we go to a 5-minute recess before we recess to the executive.
And then recess to the executive session.
Yes.
All, do we have a
Make a
second?
second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In 5 minutes, we'll meet in executive session.
You're the athlete here. Oh, I enjoy being an athlete. It beats the alternative of sitting there watching TV all day long.
The spectator?
Yes.
We have a great color, huh? You don't want to miss all this fun, do you?
Oh, man. Okay. Our microphones are on. And pretty much everybody is here and situated. Jan's been notified, correct? Okay, we are back in session from executive session. No action taken. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Third.
Motion, 2 seconds and the third. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.